Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. Today is Sunday, February 16th. This is episode 239. I'm Tony.
I'm Dennis. Tony.
Yay.
When I'm in Discord, all I see is bro-tato.
Why
are you not done with the tato?
It's hard. It's difficult.
Okay.
It is. Some of the characters I do not have a very good luck with. I'm bouncing between like 2 or 3 games right now, but Brotato is still a major part of that rotation.
Okay, I've noticed.
So.
Me and Pepperidge Farm and the EGP Discord have all noticed.
Yep, I'm there. I kind of bounce between them, and yeah, we're working on it, trying.
Read any good books lately?
Yeah. So I finished Wind and Truth, segued from Wind and Truth into. What did I listen to after Wind and Truth? I don't even remember. It wasn't that good. It wasn't any big deal. But then it finished just in time. I finished it just in time for the new Dungeon Crawler Carl book to come out. So I was able to sit down and start that. And that book has been pedal to the metal, just 100% go, no breaks, no slowdowns, no just sheer insanity from the very beginning of the book. And I'm over halfway through, and it hasn't slowed down yet. It is just completely insane.
Okay. But you're liking it.
I love it.
Good.
It's great.
Excellent.
I mean, that's going to bother me now. What did I listen to between
Who
those
cares?
two?
You said it wasn't very good, so just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. That's as far as I go with Disney. I'm not on AGDQ.
Their lawyers were sitting there with the stopwatch going
They can't stop
already.
us. I got fair use. I got fair use to protect me, but only a little bit of it.
Now, I will say, I have to make a confession.
Oh no!
I must confess.
Yes.
So I know I've spoken in the past. I've been doing like lots of like the ASMR sleep.
Yes,
things.
with like Warhammer.
With
40K.
like Warhammer, yeah. Well, I segued into doing doing all the like BattleTech lore guys, which to the point where like yesterday morning I woke up and it was playing and it had just started one that was 5 hours long, and I listened to all of it
While you were awake.
While I was awake,
Tony, that's not why they exist for.
And. Like to the point where I was like I had to go run errands and I was streaming it in the car to finish that 5-hour run of the lore talking about the history of the Torrent Concordant, and it was all great and it was fine. And then I got home and without thinking about it, I realized that I was updating the Rogue Tech launcher, which is the mod I run on the BattleTech game. And I'm like, no, I can't do this.
It's too late. You started it.
I didn't start the game.
Oh.
I updated the mod to bring the mod to the most current version of the mod. And I was looking at it and I'm like, I can't do this.
But
it was still 25% of my gameplay last year of my total gameplay for the entire year, and we're not even out of February. I can't start into it yet again, so I closed it down. But I was that close. I mean, I was like. I like had the torch on the bottom of the spoon. I was starting to.
Yep.
I was getting the spoon warmed up, but I didn't quite pull the trigger.
Okay. Well, the thing is that you were able to recognize the risk and step over it and continue on the path to being clean.
Yes. So how have you been?
Fine.
Do you have any confessions? That
No,
you must
other
give
than
out?
I shouldn't really be judging you on Brotato because I'm still in the Yakuza game. I've barely been playing it though. Unlike you, when people go into Discord, they don't see me in Yakuza because I've only been playing it on the weekends because it's just a busy time at work, which is fine. But when I get back home, I'm just not in the mood to play that. I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals though,
Right.
So a little bit of Overwatch. As well, and they're making a lot of changes to that game now, probably in response to Marvel, which is a good thing. And then Marvel is making some adaptations because they have big balance issues. What a shock. They have a humongous roster. But I've actually been doing competitive in Marvel Rivals over the last week, and it's still very polarizing. Sometimes the enemy team is just full of babies, and sometimes I am the baby, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm getting totally destroyed by all the adults in the room, and it's annoying. And I just blame them all as cheaters. That's how it is. Yeah, that's how I cope with it.
If you beat me, you're a cheater.
That's right. Basically, I'm like, yep, yeah, you're using a Zim for a mouse. That's right. I can smell it. Actually, and Overwatch is really obvious. You can tell when the people are using a mouse, which I don't. On competitive, you're only supposed to be with other console people, so they use a device to allow them to use a mouse. It's blatant cheating.
Yeah,
but you have to report it. So, speaking of reporting, I'm glad to report we have a new Patreon member. Jacob G has joined. So thank you, Jacob. I'm glad you have chosen to support us, and I hope you continue to enjoy the show. I also have a correction from the last episode, so thank you to Scott V. People are being very judgmental now of all of my pronunciations I've learned. So I don't know. This is how slow things in so many of these hobbies are. This is what it's turned into. So anyway, I said for Civ, I said Sieve. It's Civ. I even checked if the British called them a sieve. It's not. It's a sieve. It's always a sieve.
It's always been a sieve.
So I'm acknowledging that it's always. Well, normally I would just have said like a colander. But I'm not used to saying sieve. But I tried to be fancy because that's what I was thinking of. At least was some sort of strainer.
Interesting. Because in my mind, a colander has larger holes than
it does.
A sieve.
But I was still trying to
a finer.
But we weren't talking about like cooking noodles here. We were talking about letting some stuff through.
Right. Well, and that's the thing
so I could have done a filter too.
Yeah,
but I don't have a filter. No, I do. I have a filter. Maybe. I don't know.
You obviously have a filter. You don't have to beep you nearly as much as we do me.
Yes, sure. I'm really good about self-control. So we had another email also regarding pronunciation from Brian. This is more in regards to the discussion from the last episode about modern versus when will go and say modern. And he said he always wondered why in Mr. Roboto by Styx, he was always hearing it as modern and not modern. And he said now he thinks he sort of understands why. And apparently he went and looked to see if Dennis DeYoung was like from Kentucky or something. And he's like, no, it's Chicago. So, but Chicago. It was another Dennis. Maybe it's a Dennis thing.
It's a Dennis thing.
I'm sailing away. Do you think Dennis DeYoung will sue me for that?
Not for that much.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dennis.
I mean, they let Cartman cover it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for the intro stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into pinball. Tony, I don't have a lot for you, and this is not the pinball show, so I cannot pad it all out into 90 minutes of content on basically no news. There's a little bit of news though.
We can make some stuff up to talk about.
Oh, before I completely segue in, I'm not going to make something. I want to ask you this because I think you'll find this interesting. So on Pinside, there was a discussion related to the pinball show that I do with Zach Minnie. And I had gotten Glenn Fry of the Eagles mixed up with Glenn Campbell of country music, Rhinestone Cowboy fame. Is that his?
Glenn Campbell?
Campbell. Thank you. I missaid his last name also. Someone said you didn't say it right. But I think I left off like all the letters and just said Camel or something. I don't know. Let me go. So Campbell.
Glenn Campbell.
Campbell. The P is silent?
Yeah.
Okay, because it does have a P in there.
I've never heard of the P. That doesn't mean maybe I just don't pay that much attention.
Okay. Well, all right. Glenn. We'll call him Glenn, right? He's Glenn. Glenn with one N, not two. Someone else misspelled it. And look, the thread this is why there's no news.
Holy crap.
Yes. No, I'm just not going to mention names anymore because, wow. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, people into music can be hardcore about it, so I totally understand. And anyway, that wasn't Glenn. That was an aside. So someone was correcting that I had said Glenn Frey, which I have heard other people say, but they are all wrong. It is Glenn Fry who was with the Eagles, and I had no recollection of ever hearing his name. I had one of his CDs, is the point, but that's not the point of this discussion. The point of this discussion is I mentioned that Glenn Campbell, however we're saying it, country.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up pronunciation.
Okay, so Tony and I took a break, and Tony looked up the pronunciation. So it is Glenn Campbell, like you said, Tony. You were right. Very good job. So I will try and remember that. So, all right. So this discussion about Glenn Campbell brought up True Grit, the 1969 version with John Wayne. Have you seen that movie?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I do prefer the new one. I'm gonna go out.
And that's what I so I said, basically I said, I don't care how to say Glenn Campbell's name because his acting performance in True Grit was enough for me to not bother looking it up. All right. I didn't think it was the spiciest take, but some people really like his music. So I guess it was a tiny bit, we got a little bit of heat, but not like habanero, more like jalapeno, right?
Right.
Just a little bit of heat. All right. So that triggered in the Pinside thread on the podcast this discussion because someone really liked True Grit, which True Grit with John Wayne is a good movie.
Yes.
But they also like Glenn Campbell's performance in it. And then I came in and I said, True Grit, the remake, is the better movie, just period.
It is.
And that triggered. Look, I ended up writing like a 5-paragraph explanation about why I personally feel that the 2010 remake is a superior movie, even if not every single acting performance is superior to everything in the 1969 True Grit. But it all started with Glenn Campbell, and then it just spun off into Jeff Bridges versus John Wayne and all of this, and then someone else weighed in and they're like, well, to me it's kind of like 310 to Yuma. Like, I like the original, but the remake's pretty good. And I'm like, I don't remember the original very well. I own the remake of 310 to Yuma.
Right.
I really like that movie too. So I thought I would ask you. I wasn't going to ask you to look up how to say Glenn Campbell's name. I was going to ask you, given that, even though it was a completely different podcast, I thought just as an interesting aside, we can couch it as potential themes for pinball. Best Westerns, not the hotel. Western movies. Oh. So this is spun this up because one of the things that I guess I don't really because again, this is a podcast about video games and pinball, and the other podcast to do is about pinball. But I realized as I was writing up paragraph number 4 that it's like, you know what? I like and have watched a lot of Westerns.
I have too.
A lot of Westerns. I grew up on Westerns. And I was just thinking, you know what? I know Tony likes a number of Westerns as well. So I thought if we were to maybe each suggest, let's say, 5 Westerns, and we'll leave 310 and True Grit out of it.
Okay.
5 Westerns. No, let's do 3 each. So there's 6 total. Okay. That you would say, like, if you were someone to come to you and say, I want to think about Westerns because I'm trying to come up with themes, but in reality, it's really just an excuse to say, if someone was coming to you and saying, I want to experience the Western genre, what should I watch? What would you tell them should be on your, like, I recommend you watch this. This is a good taste of the genre.
Unforgiven.
I knew you would say it. I just didn't know if it'd be your number 1 or not.
Unforgiven.
Why?
For me, that movie kind of is just like the capstone of what Westerns started out their life as the like kind of campy little fun type. A lot of the old Westerns are very campy, and they've segued into being more and more serious and more and more serious. And then with Unforgiven in the 90s, I feel like it really hit that point to the point where even, especially if you have a background in Westerns, Clint Eastwood's role and character, and some of the stuff he did in that directly called out to stuff he did back in the spaghetti Western days. And it was just a beautiful, like, connection to the entire change of what's been in the genre. And it's just a really fun movie.
Yeah.
Well, fun might be the wrong word.
It's dark.
It's super dark. And it is a good movie.
It is. It's excellent. It's got an excellent cast. Richard Harris is in it. People might know him from being Dumbledore, the first couple movies. He's in it. Obviously, you've got Gene Hackman, who rocks in basically everything he's been in since The French Connection. I would have named this if you had not. And I do like dark and gritty Westerns. That's why I like the remakes of 310 and True Grit. But Unforgiven, for a lot of people, they would probably say it is the best Western to have ever been made.
I can see the argument.
Of course, it's debatable, but
debatable.
A lot of people would say it, in part because it really captures it's a more authentic brutality to how that lifestyle would be in the West versus the more romanticized version that a lot of people ended up growing up with. So yes, I really like that pick. I'm going to go ahead and go with another Clint Eastwood because you mentioned the callbacks to early in his career and say the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is, in my opinion, the best spaghetti Western to have been made. And I think it's noteworthy for people, just so that they are aware, spaghetti Westerns were not respected when they came out.
No.
That it was seen as this, it was seen as a subpar. It's like how horror movies don't get any respect. It's the Rodney Dangerfield of Westerns. Spaghetti Westerns were just not very well respected. It's the third and final installment in the Man with No Name trilogy, which is sort of the loose coalition of the Clint Eastwood-led, Leone-directed films. But it's the best one for a couple of reasons, in my opinion. One, the music. The music alone is worth. I still actually listen to The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. Like, I blow it up on YouTube and listen to it. Usually at least once a week. Currently, I probably hear something from it. The other thing is it's a little more nuanced than some of the other ones in terms of you've got, so the title makes it sound like there's a good guy, a bad guy, and then you're like, and someone who's just ugly. But it's, none of the characters are nice people. They all have issues. And so it's very sprawling. It's got some pretty good cinematography as well. So that would be one of my picks. What would be a second pick for you?
Jeremiah Johnson.
You know what? I'm trying to remember that one.
It is, is it Robert Redford?
Okay. Is that the one where he's got the beard and everyone has the meme where he nods?
Yes.
Okay.
The meme is from it.
All right.
But yeah, because it is. Yep, Robert Redford. Basically, it's about a guy who goes up in the mountains to live alone after a bunch of bad stuff happens. So, but I mean, there's some beautiful scenes in that movie where it's like almost silent. There's no talking. There's just him surviving. But yeah, no, the meme of him doing the nod, that is from that movie. That's a great movie. Watched it not terribly long, a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, because I rewatched it during COVID, so that's been like 5 years ago. Okay,
yeah, it's a little bit longer than I think you've indicated.
Right, but yeah, no, that one's definitely always a good time.
Okay. All right, I'm going to name one that probably won't be in a lot of top lists, but I think it's a lot of fun. And Silverado.
I would think Silverado would be in a lot of top lists, especially if people from a certain era,
maybe,
because there was that whole thing. It used to be, it wasn't uncommon that there'd be like on the Western days you'd sit there, because it used to be on like Saturday or Sunday there'd be a bunch of Westerns on TV, and you'd turn on and it was either going to be Young Guns or it was going to be Silverado that was on.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
It was one of my dad liked that one a lot, so we would have it on from time to time, but it plays more into the traditional American Western in that it's a relatively uplifting approach, but more modern. Let me make sure I said it right. In the cinematography and such. Again, though, an incredible cast. A lot of them weren't big names yet, so when you go back and you're like, it's got Kevin Kline, it's got Kevin Costner, it's got Scott Glenn, it's got Brian Dennehy. It's, oh my gosh, I think I named most of the big. I don't know. It's loaded. It's got a loaded cast. Danny Glover is in it.
Yeah.
And so the story is pretty straightforward. It's got some of the setup shots do a lot of callbacks to just sort of that the golden age of Westerns in terms of but broad sweeping dual shots, a lot of different and the thing about it is, even for a relatively modest runtime, all of the protagonists feel reasonably well developed. So they all have their own personality, and something that the only other movie I can think of, which could have been in there, I mean, I guess we'll see what your third pick is, but would be like The Magnificent Seven, where you kind of felt like you kind of understood each one of them. And it's tough when you get to that many characters. This one is more revolving around 5 characters, so it's a little easier to give time to like Scott Glenn and Danny Glover. But they have their own side stories and such, and they all nicely tie up at the end of it. And fun music there as well. But it's a favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad one.
What's your third?
My third one, I'm going to say it. I'm assuming it's probably on your list, but I'm going to say it anyway because I can't risk it not being mentioned. Mm-hmm. Tombstone.
Yeah, it was what I was going to do if you didn't.
Yeah.
Why?
Tombstone is just like the classic retelling of the Wyatt Earp story in my mind. And for that movie to have been as good as it is, if you don't know anything about the background of that movie and the like complete chaotic jumble and collapse that was the behind the scenes of that movie, where it basically ended up that like Kurt Russell like held that movie together by the skin of his teeth because he wanted that movie to be done and good, and it turned out to be one of the best westerns ever.
Oh yes,
it is. You should look into some of the stuff talking about the background of it. It what seems like a movie that is just wonderful, and it's got so many quotable lines and so many super memorable characters, and everything sets together so well. And to find out that the background was just so bad, and they basically just held that thing together and forced it through and made the best movie, is just amazing.
It is. Yeah, I've watched like documentary coverage of the making of that movie, and it was. I mean, there are a lot of troubled production movies that end up turning out really great. Like The Abyss is another good example, but the movie is. Of all the ones we've named, it is the most quotable of any of them, and it's Val Kilmer's best performance he ever gave.
I also agree with that,
and it really shined. I mean, he steals every scene he's in. So, excellent pick. Since you said that one, I'll go ahead and tie the bow on my prior reference and say The Magnificent Seven. There is a very good remake with Denzel Washington. I do prefer the original in this instance, not the remake. I just think the Yul Brynner version is I don't know. There's something about it that feels a little better, though. I really do like the remake, and when it's on like Amazon Prime, I will watch it because it's well done, and you've got some modern twists. But again, cast of characters bigger. It in a way you could shrug and say it's just Seven Samurai, but made in a western. I mean,
because that's what it is.
Literally what they did.
Yeah.
But I also like Seven Samurai movies, so it's just the idea of this small group of experts helping the little guy, and in this case a small town, resist a bunch of land wannabe robber barons coming in and taking things over. But again, they all have their own personalities, and it's an interesting little tale of bringing these people together to fight for what's right. But their initial motivations are all quite different.
Right, and that's the kind of interesting cultural thing is that in Japan they did samurai movies just like we do westerns and did westerns and in the similar timelines of the movies, and they were big in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It was a very similar thing that was just kind of a cultural touchstone thing. I don't know, but they all had the same kind of theme and the same kind of feel. They were just the different settings.
It's just what it was. So anyway, okay, we did our top 6. So,
yeah, that works.
Yeah, I don't know if it worked for the listeners or not, but see, and this is what
I will say.
Glenn
of all
Campbell
of those,
took us down.
Of all of those, I think Tombstone would be the best for a pinball machine, though.
Oh, that's a good way to tie this into the segment. Tombstone, yeah, I suppose so.
Of those 6,
yeah, I think. I mean, because it's got like the OK Corral shootout and such. There's a lot of, because it's all mostly set in one town. You can really orient a lot of things around it, and it's and it's a pretty well-known movie because Silverado's mostly set in one town. Well, about half the film, but again, it's supposed to be this like a nothing throwaway place, whereas Tombstone's trying to tell you a story about Wyatt Earp and his later life after he had been a lawman. And yeah, I agree with you. I think Tombstone would lend itself best. I mean, they did Maverick. Tombstone would have been far more worthy of a movie. Though Maverick is fun, and we could have. There's so many potential westerns that we could have thrown out, and that's not just the ones where we're kind of thinking like the lawman or the fugitive or the cowboy. There's stuff like There Will Be Blood and stuff set in the Western era. There have been some like that.
That wasn't good.
There was a resurgence about 10 years ago, I'll say 10 to 20 years ago, where there was a big push for like really high quality westerns, and some really good ones came out of it. And it's easy to be dismissive because a number of them were remakes, and I'm always skeptical of people remaking a good movie in particular. Though that's a good example where you lean in on a really solid acting. The third act is a little weird in that movie, so it wouldn't be on my top list. But I think it's a little. It's a little. Campy at that point. I think fun. That's what everyone likes to quote. I drink your milkshake. but it's like But yeah, there are a lot of those interesting ones where it's just sort of like in the West and stuff ended up happening, sorts of things. But
thinking of Daniel Day-Lewis just got me thinking of a Gangs of New York pinball machine.
you know what? I've been so long since I've seen that movie. I've wanted to rewatch it, but. We're definitely drifting way too far.
We're way drifting.
The Patreon members are like, I'm
can...
unsubbing. Jacob's like, I gotta get out of here. What is this nonsense? We've got...
Normally this drift happens, like after the video game segment, not before the pinball segment.
Well, but I mean, it came up from a discussion on pinball on a pinball forum, and you brought up the good point. It would make a good pinball theme, Tombstone. So we tied it in. Speaking of pinball themes, Dungeons and Dragons, Fire in the Hole. Western reference.
That game's hot.
Yes. So if you're not
smoldering.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with it, so essentially what appears, as I understand it, to have happened is the LE models went out. The dragon, because of how much it moves, has run into a situation where the wiring harness has been tied down to the game to keep the wires out of the way on some of them so tightly that it's pulling on the cables at the node board that controls the dragon. Node board 10, which node board 10 was the node board that had problems in Rush. And when this intermittent connection happens, the chip will blow. Or could. It could be an outcome. Now, I do not know if any literally have caught fire. It sounded like some people started to say that it was catching on fire. And I don't know if there's been a little poof of smoke and people have said it's caught on fire and it's just the chip burning out, but the chips have been burning out. So Stern has a fix. And my understanding is people can also just cut the zip ties and give themselves, like the wiring harness itself, it sounds like has plenty of wire. It's just how the line workers in some instances have tied it down. And the pros don't have this problem, because the pros don't have the full side-to-side movement, so they're not having that strain on the wiring harness.
Right.
And the premiums haven't gone out yet. So it's impacted LE buyers. So that's been the discussion. But, of course, when things get blown like on node board 10, they have to get a new node board, and so it's been a thing. And, of course, we always pay a lot of attention to all the stumbles that pinball companies have, because we know that a stumble on a game can result in what was maybe going to be successful becoming less successful. Case in point being Stranger Things, and when the Demogorgon toys could not successfully eat the pinballs being thrown at it, and that was a key component early on of scoring, people were like, I don't know if I want this lemon. So
yeah.
So anyway, what do you think about node board 10 and here? I mean, the dragon, if it were to breathe fire,
it's just so hot right now.
Well, the dragon were to smolder and shoot flames and stuff, that'd be pretty cool. Like,
right.
But I mean, but not like this.
It's a really expensive special effect.
Well, I'm wondering if, like, they got engineers, and if they could figure out a way to take it so there's like a little port on the side, like a gas port, where we could put lighter fluid in, and then it would have like a little Bic lighter mouth, and it just go. But it's too
feel like those old the old little Sparky toys where you push the button and it just shoots sparks.
That could be on our Tombstone game. When you plunge, the plunge looks like a revolver, and the chamber will spark. Yeah.
Oh, you just need to get have it look like the pistol where you pull the trigger.
Yes.
But then you just have like the old school cap pistol rolls where you put in the cap pistol roll, so every time you pull the trigger, the cap pistol goes pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
It'd probably be easier and cheaper to just program it so when you pull the trigger, it makes a sound effect.
Yes, it would be, but we got.
But then you don't get that good cap pistol.
Yeah, the cap pistol smell. Oh, I had so many caps.
Tick, 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 tick. Did you prefer the ones that were the plastic that you put in, like you were actually, so you only had 6 shots, or the ones that you put in where it was just the giant roll, so you'd have the revolvers that would have like 200 shots?
I preferred the plastic ones because the roll ones would often misfeed, and the hammer wouldn't fall on them properly. It would get misaligned so easily. But I had both, of course. But yeah, I like the little plastic because they like always work.
Well, and it felt good because the pistols broke open, and you pulled you threw the old plastic out, and you put the new one in, and you lock it back into place.
Yes. Anyway, all right. But enough about westerns. Enough about
pop. Yeehaw, buddy.
Oh yeah. Speaking of caps, Nap Arcade, actually, I don't know if that's anything to do with caps, but Nap Arcade. I have a link to this in the show notes. DPX, PXPX. They have delayed Alice's Adventures in Wonderland's construction again. Apparently again. I missed the first pause. I should have repped Nap Arcade closer. I missed the first one, but I'm here now.
I'm so surprised.
I'm here now. And people can follow the link to read up the actual details because I don't think there's a lot for me to say on this. It's just per the article, Dutch Pinball, which they're doing Alice under the DPX label to create a degree of segregation between the two brands. But Dutch Pinball is still in the process of finishing up their final Big Lebowski builds. Apparently, there's some component, and it's an important component that they need for the Alice game.
Maybe it's a capacitor, so it's a cap. Brought it all back together.
You did.
Woo!
Saved. And anyway, DPX indicates that they still expect to be able to build all the games by the end of 2025.
Oh, I know what the major component is.
What is it?
It's fun.
I don't think, given the sales, that they care if the game is fun or not. That's just my opinion, and it means about as much as it costs for you to hear it. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's still early in the year, but I don't know. This isn't a company that has a great track record for meeting deadlines, so
right.
I ain't holding my breath. But anyway, you can go to the Nap Arcade and read the details should you so desire. Speaking of details, did you know this detail, Tony? There's a new pinball company. Rowdy Ramp Rounds. No, that's not what they call it, but they should, because I wanted to say Rowdy Ramp Rounds like that. Look, it's like the one impression no one said you don't sound like the Gottlieb Rowdy Ramp Round. I do sound
just
like
more
Rowdy Ramp Rounds.
More
rowdy.
It's just all Western. It's just all
Round.
Westerns.
That's
all the
right.
way down.
One of the best Gottlieb call-out games.
I need to go change the video game
It's
section.
Cue Ball
So
Wizard.
we just talk about Red Dead
Rounds.
Redemption, even though there's zero Red Dead Redemption.
Why did no one ever
days.
make us an intro song that was Western themed? But yeah, with caps. I don't know. Because we're not really that liked, I guess. But anyway, doesn't really matter. Ramps Pinball. That's the name of the company. I believe this is the person who is behind the homebrew of Elf, which you've probably heard of.
I did.
I don't think I've ever played Elf.
I haven't. I've seen pictures and stuff of it.
So the first game by Ramps Pinball is Road Trip. So it's Ramps Road Trip. I believe it's set to be a 500 game limited run. They're not asking for deposits or anything. I do not know the price yet. They do have a web page. They're not kickstarting it or anything. It showed up at a show, and it's supposed to be at TPF. But the main selling point seemed to be, if I were to distill them down, which I am going to do, would be they are advertising that it will allow you to load your own music. The game is designed to let you load your own music into the game. And then they have a rotating ramp system. So think like a carousel, kind of like Batman 66 has that carousel where the phone and stuff would turn around. But they've got ramp feeds. So when it turns, different ramp shots happen.
Neat.
With the intro. So it's a pretty clever concept. So we might get a chance to try that at TPF when we go next month. But anyway, I just wanted to make you aware.
Gosh, TPF is like literally a month away at this point.
Yes.
A month and a week or so.
Yeah, about that. Roughly. I know you haven't thought of anything. We can't listen to Dungeon Crawler Carl because I'll have to drive 95 miles an hour to keep up with the action.
Well, to be fair, this is like not the first book.
Yeah,
but even the first
I didn't even
book
start with the first book.
The first book's too long.
It is way too long.
All the books are too long.
No, I thought you already picked something.
I have like 4 ideas.
Okay. Tony pre-plans all this stuff, guys. So I usually don't have to stress too much about trying to like narrow it down.
I have 4 ideas. One of which is like actually a combination of short stories that are all like 3 hours long.
I like short stories. I used to write a lot of them. But I don't write anymore. It's been
too much time.
It does take a lot of time. I guess I write a lot of scripts.
My hands cramp up.
Well, we got to write our notes for this, and I write my scripts up for my watch channel, and it's just like I got plenty of stuff I got plenty of creative stuff going on. Whether anyone likes it is another question. But
it's not for them, Dennis. It's for you.
It's for me. That's right. Yeah. But yet given out for public consumption so that it can be criticized.
Well, yes, because otherwise it has no meaning.
Well, without the judgment of others, how will you know if your product was any good or not?
That's right.
That's how the world is. Speaking of the world, part of the world has reached out to us. We already covered a couple of people who wrote in, but this one was a more pinball-oriented one. Chris D. emailed in and said, Dennis, but I'm going to turn this over to both of us. Dennis, can you please take a few moments and explain to me what would be included in a Green Mile pinball machine? Well, thank
Depression.
you, Chris. I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm tired, boss. I mean, a mode where you need to like complete it as slow as possible because you're tired. I think that's taking the phrase a little too literal. I actually think there are a number of things you could do. What was the name of the annoying cop, the evil guard, like one of the most sinister? Percy? Was his name Percy? The villainous cop.
It's been
guard.
so long since
the villainous
I've seen
guard.
it.
He could be a bash toy. That would be an option. Some sort of toy with the mouse could be an option.
There needs to be a mode where you're completing shots to there needs to be a mode where you're completing shots to finish the setup in the chair and lock the arms in and the sponge. And
do you get bonus points if you do not wet the sponge, or do you lose points? See, it's a critical point.
See,
but
yeah,
all those leftover Sparky toys from the old from the old Metallica run, we have a purpose for them now. So there's plenty of iconic now. How to kind of do like what was his name, Coffee, and his thing with being able to like suck the sickness and stuff out of things. That's going to have to be on the display. I can't think of a good way to do it in a toy that wouldn't feel like cheesy, but there are plenty of set pieces in that, the hallway, the Green Mile itself, the prison cells. The layout, I think, isn't going to be too difficult to work within that theme because most of it takes place within the prison. But basically, stuff oriented, you probably have shots around your cast of characters. So you've got your Tom Hanks character. And again, it can be the book version. The book and the movie are very, very similar. I don't know if you've read the book, Tony. I read it before the movie came out. Okay. And it actually adheres very closely. So those would be my suggestions in terms of what you would include. But I mean,
yeah, come back next time when we talk about the Schindler's List pinball machine.
No. I mean, I guess maybe Green Mile isn't the best theme to run with. I can't remember the context if I brought it up and said there are other Stephen King books I would probably do first. I mean, it would be the obvious one because people love it.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen the new movie. I never saw the old one because I was too scared of Tim Curry and the clown.
Tim Curry was so good.
I was scared, though, because I had been reading the book. I only got halfway through the book because I kept flashbacking, and I was just like, I'm done with this. I got like halfway through.
I finished the book. I read the book on vacation, like camping in Colorado.
This is like the only Stephen King book I gave up on. I've read so many of his books. Now there are a number I haven't read. Like I've never read one of your favorites, The Stand.
Wow,
never read it.
You should read The Stand.
I probably should.
It's good.
I read all of the Dark Tower.
I've read all the Dark Tower.
Sure.
I've read the entire
Talisman
Dark Tower
and
twice.
its sequel.
There's another Talisman coming out.
Yes, I'm excited.
I am too. I might need to reread them.
Yes.
Been
I don't normally reread, but it's been so long. I can't remember very well.
I literally haven't read Black House since Black House came out.
Black House was good, though.
It was good. But I read it when it came out, and I haven't read it since.
All right. Video games.
Yes, video games.
See, all right. The point being, all of those would make good pinball machines, and probably should be done before Green Mile or Schindler's List. Tony,
I have so much. Okay, video games. Looks like it's a lot, but it's not. Well, it'll cut through pretty fast. There was so much stuff. I cut a bunch of stuff out
to make room for our Western.
Room, yeah. I will say. We played this game a lot back on Xbox. Castle Crashers.
Yes. 360 days, yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's been 16 years since Castle Crashers came out. They're releasing new DLC.
Wow.
Only for the PC version.
Okay.
And it's specifically to add Steam Workshop functionality so people can make their own stuff for it in the Steam Workshop. So...
Interesting.
That'll include some new player, a new character, and some new player and weapon art. For the PlayStation people, during the past 2 weeks, it was down.
They're probably aware because it was down a long time.
It was down for like 24 hours.
Did they ever say what happened?
No, they just said there were network issues or something like that.
What would we have said in the 90s? No, duh.
Yeah. Yeah,
Of course, there were network issues. The network was down. We get that.
There's just some issues. It's okay, but we fixed it now. And for those of you who pay for the live for the PSN Live,
The Plus,
the PSN Plus, they gave them 5 free subscription days. For everybody else who didn't get to play games, because even games that don't require PSN Plus to play online were offline. Those people they were just like, nah, screw you.
Nothing, not even wallpaper for
they didn't get
for
nothing.
PlayStation Home or whatever it's called.
They didn't get nothing.
Yeah.
They got a swift kick in the rear.
Get out of here.
And then Sony, shortly after that, had their big state of play where they talked about all the new games coming.
Yeah, the only thing I had heard about out of it was the Borderlands stuff.
Yeah, Borderlands 4 coming on all systems in September.
Okay.
I think September 23rd. They've also got almost everything they announced is coming to all systems. I saw an article that made the comment after the state of play. In 2025, Xbox has more first-party games coming to the PlayStation than Sony does.
What a strange world we live in.
Right.
but I mean, Microsoft does own like all the companies now. So.
Right. But they're not holding back. They're like,
we'll
sell them.
They've stuck by their whole strategy is clearly we want to be multi-platform. So
I only pulled out a couple things that caught my eye. Shinobi: Art of Vengeance, a new Shinobi game from Sega. But it's a straight up like Metroidvania Shinobi game. So
okay,
it's like cool. It's been I don't even know the last time a Shinobi game came out. I remember playing them when I was like young, back when I had hope, dreams, stuff like that. And there's a new Sonic Racing coming out because there always needs to be a kart game for every darn franchise.
Yes,
I don't understand why Sonic needs a race car game. He's probably
slower
in the
fast.
car. No, he's slower in the car than he is running. He's Sonic the bloody Hedgehog. It doesn't have Jim Carrey dancing with Jim Carrey in a freaking cat suit. It's just not worth it to me at this point.
That's fair, but all right.
They did announce they have released a demo for Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which I'm thinking about downloading and messing around with. And there's going to be Like a Dragon DLC for Dave the Diver because Dave the Diver is the town bicycle and it does DLC with everything. I mean, they got Godzilla DLC that makes no sense. It just does DLC for everything. We talked about Borderlands 4. How do you feel about claymation?
I don't really like it because it's ugly to me.
Oh, no, you'd love this game. There's a game called The Midnight Walk. It is a creepy first-person claymation game. Everything's claymation. It's super creepy. All the characters are creepy. The fighting's creepy. Everything's creepy. It is like a Tim Burton LSD trip of a game. So I had to throw that one in there because after I watched the trailer, I was just like, I feel like I need to take a shower.
Okay, that might be interesting.
I feel dirty. It's just wrong, and I'm creeped out. Oh, and there's a new Onimusha coming out. Onimusha Way of the Sword.
Yes.
That's another franchise that's been around for a while.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about it.
I never really played much of that. Blizzard has already walked back their plans they announced last year to do yearly expansions for Diablo 4, as there's not going to be an expansion until 26.
Okay. That's quite a walk back.
So, but they said they're going to put out a roadmap of what to expect.
Oh, roadmap. Star Citizen loves their roadmap. So
we're going to get you a roadmap.
So Blizzard's in great company there.
Well, I know last year I told you that you'd have an expansion every year, but no.
No. But here's a map.
Here's a roadmap for the seasons.
Yeah.
You'll have seasons. Square Enix shut down the iOS version of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Busket! Gotta have the Busket game. There was a bug that made players unable to access their purchased content. And the bug was from some change made in the in-app purchase model, and it was unfixable. So they're just like, oh, we're just going to shut this game down. It doesn't work anymore. Anybody who purchased content for the game after or for January of 24 on, you can apply for a refund and get your money back. Because apparently that's around when the bug came into place, and everything stopped working. And they tried to fix it. They're just like, nope, can't do it. We quit. Oh, Overwatch. They're bringing back all the old stuff. What's old is new now? Loot Crate's back. They went back to 6-player. I mean, they're bringing all the stuff.
They have an arcade mode going. I think right now, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, the Moth meta they brought back with the Mercy when she could do when they first introduced her Valk and she could stack it and do 3 instant reses in a 30-second window. Yep, they're running that in arcade. People are like, some people love it because it brought back original Doomfist. Because Doomfist is a tank in Overwatch too, but he's a DPS in that mode.
Right.
But everyone else is like, Moth meta wasn't good. Why are you doing this to us? They're like, you like the old stuff. Here, pixie dust into your eyes.
But I actually first found out about this because my daughter told me, they're bringing back loot boxes. I'm like, why? She goes, I kind of like loot boxes.
That's right. That's why they're doing it. Because the new system is even more frustrating. And I remember going, in Pepperidge Farm, and gathering up loot boxes because there'd be, a timed event, and you're just like, you open them and like, oh, great, a duplicate, or oh, great, not the legendary I wanted, or great, not a legendary, period. But now it's like tons of stuff are in the shop. It's too expensive, and some of the, it's either like the laziest skins are there and no one wants to buy them, or it's some cool stuff, but you don't want to pay like $30.
I would say, who doesn't want to buy a $30 skin?
So the loot crates, and it sounds like, I haven't read up on them, but for the brief summary I heard about it, sounds like that it's supposed to be a pretty good mix of like stuff that's been out before and stuff. So skins people do care about.
Right.
So anyway, the people want it.
The people want it.
That's not all they want, though.
No, that's not all they want. The people want live service games.
Yes, except not from some brands.
Right. EA, in a call to investors, said, they were talking about the failure of Dragon Age to hit their sales goals.
Yes, it was very disappointing for them.
They only hit half of what their sales goal for it was, and they apparently thinks they would have hit their sales expectations if it had been a live service game, because the people want shared worlds and shared experiences like that. They don't want solo play. People want to pay extra money to have a live service game and all that kind of bonuses.
Yes.
And the backlash from fans has been pretty huge.
Fans that didn't buy the game.
And the backlash from creators has been notable, to the point of creators were like, if I was making this game and they told me it needed to be live service, I think I would just quit. Because there's certain games that don't lend themselves to being a live service style game. And Dragon Age would be one of them. Or can you imagine here's my thing is, this is their thought, and there's a new Mass Effect coming. Are they going to make the new Mass Effect a live service online game? Yeah,
probably.
Of course they are. Let's be honest. Yeah. It's EA. Of course they are.
It's in the game. It's on the internet.
It's in your wallet.
It's in your wallet.
Transfer it to our wallet. Just give me your credit card. Get over here. And they're just pulling the wallet out of your pocket.
You see all these PayPal receipts in your email after you played a couple of rounds.
It just says uppercut $1, uppercut $1, Hadouken $4, sure you can $400.
No, I think even more nefarious. It's like you get it. So it's hey, you can earn money playing this game. When you beat enemies, if you use the special combos and stuff, like the player you're beating up on gets charged $1, and we'll give you 10 cents of that dollar.
Don't give them ideas.
Look, yes, it's too late. These ideas flow. I'm a wellspring, and they must flow.
It's like all those ads you see for earn gift cards by playing games on your phone.
Yes.
Oh, all right. My last little bit. This one's going to be so much fun.
Oh dear. I heard about this interview happening, so I know where you're going.
Bobby Kotick,
Bobby,
the old Activision Blizzard boss.
For years, he made them so much money.
And then he made so much money when they sold to Microsoft.
Yes.
He was on the Grit podcast doing a rather long interview. It was quite a lengthy interview. But in it, he claimed that the legal actions about the harassment, they were all fake lawsuits.
Okay.
That was planned by a union to increase membership. And he said that the petition from Blizzard employees calling for his removal, that was also fake. It was all
just pretend.
It was just all pretend. It was just all
smoke and mirrors.
It was just all a show to try and get more people to join the union. I've got a direct quote here from Kotick. I can tell you exactly what happened. The Communication Workers of America union started looking at technology. They kept losing because they represented the news guilds, Comcast, and they realized that they were losing members at a really dramatic rate. So they got to figure out, how do they get new union members? So first they targeted a bunch of different businesses, Google, some other tech companies, Tesla, SpaceX, us. It's the power of unions. I didn't really understand this until we went through this process. They were able to get a government agency, the EEOC, and a state employment agency called the Department of Fair Employment and Housing to file fake lawsuits against us in riot games, making allegations about the workplace that weren't true, but they were able to do this.
Okay, so his argument is that in America, the problem is unions have too much power. And so they just use their super powerful unioniness and got government agencies to sue him for completely made up reasons.
Just totally made up.
Because they're a great place and unions bad.
Yeah. There was no real.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
I was just.
Yes. The powerful unions.
At another spot in there, he'd said that anytime they'd heard about any sort of that issue, the person was just instantly fired. Now, he didn't clarify if it was the person who brought the issue up or if it was the person who. But
they don't even investigate? That doesn't sound very fair to someone.
They just fired them, is what he claimed.
Yeah, sure.
But somehow, all those interviews, the hundreds and hundreds of interviews, and all of the investigation, all
crisis
that,
actors.
It was all fake. It was all fake news, crisis actors, all that. He also blamed. For the number of years where World of Warcraft was like ignored and had no updates or anything like that, he blamed the World of Warcraft movie.
Why? Were the programmers working all on the movie?
His claim is everybody was so busy trying to do stuff for the movie, and that he would have never done the movie, and it was one of the worst movies he's ever seen, and it did terribly. To be fair, that's all true. But
I did see the movie. It was definitely disappointing and confusing in a lot of ways. But I've seen far worse video game movies than the Warcraft movie.
That's true. It's not Blood Rain. Somehow,
Blood Rain's one of my favorites.
And it has Sir Ben Kingsley in it somehow.
Yes, it does, and Billy Zane.
But yeah, no, he claims that all the delays on the game and all that was because everybody was too busy helping with the World of Warcraft movie for some reason.
Well, I guess just everyone else sucks, and I should just believe this rich guy.
Yeah, no, obviously. Everything's lies. He's got money.
Apparently.
Just have faith.
That's just, he doesn't have a reputation, so he's trying to fix it.
Heart.
I like that it was the
Grit podcast.
True Grit. All comes back to Western.
It's like we planned it.
No Glenn Campbell, though, to worry about. So it's okay. Who do you think's a better actor, Glenn Campbell or Bobby? Bobby Kotick. Who do you think will give a better performance? Because this was a masterclass in gaslighting.
It was a masterclass in gaslighting.
I'm just wondering. Just curious. I got queries for you.
Yeah, it is.
Could he bring that sort of moxie to the Western genre?
I doubt it. I doubt it because
He'd make an interesting black hat. He'd have to be like the greasy newspaper man or something.
yeah, that
Like
or the
he'd fit in to oh gosh, what was that HBO show with Powers Booth, and it was a big popular Western. Had Powers Booth. It has the guy who plays the hotelier in John Wick. Deadwood.
Oh, Deadwood. Yeah.
Yeah, he could have. There have been something for him in Deadwood.
Yeah, he could have been some greasy slime ball. But then that's not acting. That's just him being who he is.
Well, if you don't think we're greasy slime balls, you can reach out to us at eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com with your questions or comments. Likewise, we're at facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast. If you enjoy the show, even with its weird diatribes and side tangents on Western movies and
No, you do like it. This is what the people asked for. This is what the show's always been. Anybody who thinks otherwise is wrong. They've just misremembering.
I misremember. Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, you guys have forgotten. This is eclectic.
Yeah,
this is the eclectic.
This is what we're like. This is what it's always. This is what the show's always been.
Always has been and always will be. So if you want to support that, you can at patreon.com/eclectic_gamers.
I'm not very good at gaslighting, apparently.
Yeah, no, they're falling for it. They're falling for it. Keep leaning into it.
We're available on Twitch and Instagram as eclectic_gamers.
And we should be back in a couple of weeks. Maybe there'll be news. Maybe there won't. Maybe we'll talk about a different genre. I do not know. But until then, my name is Dennis.
We could talk about campy space 90s sci-fi TV shows.
Oh, I don't know. My heart's in it. Maybe. I don't want to talk about Sliders.
Oh, I was thinking Space Above and Beyond.
Oh, okay.
That show deserved more.
I was thinking like Farscape and stuff.
Or Earth 2.
A lot of these I haven't seen. I'm much less versed in this area. So,
until then,
I'm Dennis.
Tony.
Bye.
Gaslight.